I'm a middle-aged man, married for just under 2 years. No kids, just the two of us navigating what I thought was a solid relationship. Her name is Lisa. She's smart, beautiful, and had this energy that made everything feel lighter when she was around. We weren't perfect, no couple is, but I was head over heels in love. I moved into a slightly bigger apartment for us, handled bills, groceries, errands, basically anything that could make her life easier. When her younger brother got sick, I took him to the doctor without hesitation. I felt like I was doing what a husband should do. I was proud to take care of her family as if it were my own. First, everything felt normal. We laughed, we argued over trivial things, we held each other through stress. But somewhere in the back of my mind, tiny cracks started to form. She became slightly secretive with her phone. Just the usual "it's work" excuses when I asked about late nights at the office. Little things like her checking messages quickly when I walked into the room, or disappearing for a few hours without a solid explanation. I told myself it was paranoia. I wanted to trust her, and I did. Or at least I wanted to. Looking back now, the signs were there. But at the time, they were whispers I chose to ignore because I loved her too much to see what was right in front of me. I found out in the worst possible way. Not from her. Not from some suspicious detail I noticed. No, I found out from her friend, the one I trusted, the one I thought would never betray confidence. I won't forget that day. I was at work, scrolling through my phone during a rare quiet moment, when a message popped up from her friend. "Hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but you should know. Lisa's been seeing someone from her office. I'm really sorry." I stared at it for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of the words. My mind refused to process it. Couldn't be true. I'd spent every day for the last 2 years loving her, supporting her, building this little life together. And now this invisible wedge had been there all along, growing without me noticing. I didn't respond immediately. I just sat there, phone in hand, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. My first thought was denial. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe she's joking. But deep down, a cold, sinking realization was creeping in. She had been hiding this from me, carrying on as if nothing was wrong. And I had no idea. That night, I came home pretending everything was normal. She greeted me with her usual smile, asked how my day was, and I answered as if my world hadn't just shattered. Couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing, smiling, pretending she was mine, while someone else had been sharing those moments behind my back. I kept replaying the message from her friend over and over, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But the pit in my stomach wouldn't let me. The next evening, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I waited until we were alone in the apartment. I watched her sit on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely at ease, completely unaware of what I knew. My voice was shaking when I finally said it. "Lisa, I need to know the truth. Are you seeing someone else?" She looked up at me, blinked once, and then smiled that same smile I'd fallen in love with. There was no guilt, no hesitation, just casual, almost amused calm. "What are you talking about?" she asked. I felt my chest tighten. "Don't lie to me. I know. I found out. From Sarah. I know you've been with someone from work." And then, as if she were explaining some minor inconvenience, she said, "Oh, that is not what you think. We're just hanging out. You're overreacting." Her words hit me like a punch I wasn't ready for. There was no apology, no explanation, just dismissal. And in that moment, I realized she had been living a double life right under my nose, acting as if everything was normal while my heart was breaking in real time. After that confrontation, I was a mess. I went through every room of our apartment like a ghost, feeling disconnected from the life I'd thought was mine. Every laugh we'd shared, every little gesture I'd made for her, every promise I'd believed in. It all felt tainted now, like a lie I had willingly swallowed. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My mind was a relentless carousel of questions I had no answers for. Why? How long? Did I ever matter to her? Was any of it real? Anger and sadness tangled together inside me so tightly that I could barely breathe. Anger at her for deceiving me, for pretending that our marriage was normal. Sadness for myself, for trusting her with my heart so fully, for believing in something that wasn't real. I felt stupid, weak, and utterly alone. And yet, there was a strange kind of clarity in the pain. The betrayal had ripped off the blinders I'd been wearing. I could see her exactly as she was, not through the rose-colored lens of love. I realized that I had been living in a carefully constructed illusion, one that she had controlled perfectly. I started noticing the small things I had ignored before, the way she sometimes laughed at messages on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, or the subtle changes in her tone when she spoke about coworkers. The pieces were all there. I had just been too blind, too in love to see them. For days, I walked around our apartment like a man trapped in a fog. I watched her move through the routines of our life, the same routines we'd shared since day one. Smiling at me, making dinner, asking about my day, acting as if nothing had happened. And the worst part was, part of me still wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to cling to the life I had imagined with her. But the truth kept gnawing at me. I had to make a choice. Pretend this never happened and continue a life built on lies? Or confront the reality and do something that would hurt both of us, but finally free myself from the deception? I realized I couldn't trust her again. I couldn't pretend that seeing her casually brush off her betrayal wouldn't leave scars that never healed. And I couldn't stay in a marriage where love was one-sided, where I gave everything and got nothing in return. So I made my decision. I left. Not in a dramatic, yelling, door-slamming kind of way. I just walked out. Quietly. Calmly. I didn't make a scene because I didn't need to. Her reaction wouldn't change anything. A couple of days later, my phone buzzed. It was her. "What? You won't even try to fight for me?" I laughed. A hollow, bitter laugh, and typed back, "No. Fuck off." And that was it. No further messages, no explanations. Just the quiet certainty that I had reclaimed my dignity, even if my heart still ached. The first days after leaving her were surreal. I wandered through the apartment that had once felt like home but now felt like a museum of my own heartbreak. Every corner held a memory, every object a reminder of the life I had built and the lies that had underpinned it. I spent hours sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. Sleep came in fits, if at all, and meals became a chore rather than nourishment. My mind replayed the confrontation over and over. The calmness in her voice, the way she acted as if nothing had happened. That casual dismissal cut deeper than any yelling or fighting could have. And yet, there were small moments of relief too. Relief that I no longer had to pretend, no longer had to hide the knot of suspicion in my chest. Relief that I could cry without someone dismissing my feelings or pretending it wasn't real. Relief that I could start to breathe again. I began to realize how much of myself I had given away, how much of my identity had been entwined with hers. And now, for the first time in years, I could think about me, what I wanted, what I needed, who I was outside of a relationship built on lies. It was painful, excruciatingly so, but it was also necessary. Even after I left, I couldn't escape her presence. Not physically, but in my mind, in the little things that haunted me. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched, expecting it to be her. Every familiar scent or song brought a memory crashing back. It was like my brain refused to let go, replaying the betrayal in endless loops. I caught myself wondering about this someone from work. Who was he? Did she laugh at the same jokes she used to laugh at with me? Did she feel guilty at all? And even though I told myself none of it mattered anymore, a part of me burned with a twisted curiosity, an obsession I couldn't control. I also questioned myself constantly. Had I been too naive? Too trusting? Could I have seen the signs earlier if I'd paid closer attention? The truth was, I had loved her blindly, and maybe that was my mistake. But it didn't make the hurt any smaller. Worse still was the way she had carried on as if nothing had happened. Friends, coworkers, even mutual acquaintances, I saw the same Lisa I had married. Smiling, chatting, living a life that should have been ours together. The casualness of it, the sheer normalcy, was like salt in an open wound. And yet, I knew I had made the right choice. I had walked away, taken a stand for myself. But letting go completely? That was going to take much longer. The days blurred into one another, and I realized I had to find ways to survive emotionally. I started small, taking walks in the evenings, letting the cool air hit my face, forcing myself to move, to feel something besides the weight in my chest. I cooked my own meals, cleaned the apartment, and tried to reclaim some sense of routine. It was mundane, but it helped. I also began writing, journaling every thought, every pang of anger or sadness. It was ugly, messy, and sometimes I couldn't even read my own words afterward. But it gave the pain a shape, a place outside of my chest where I could leave it temporarily. Friends noticed my distance and reached out. At first, I brushed them off, too proud or maybe too ashamed to talk. But eventually, I let a few close friends in, and just having someone listen, without judgment, without solutions, was a small balm. I stopped looking at her social media. I stopped asking mutual friends about her. Every glimpse into her life felt like reopening the wound. I was learning that some things you have to cut off entirely to survive. And yet, even as I took these steps, I felt a strange mix of grief and anger simmering beneath the surface. The betrayal wasn't something I could just move past. It was a scar I would carry, a constant reminder that love could be given freely and still be shattered. Even as I tried to rebuild my life, there were moments I felt unbearably weak. Simple things, hearing a song we used to play in the car, passing a cafe where we had a Sunday brunch, sent me spiraling. My mind would wander, imagining her smile, her laugh, the way she used to brush her hair behind her ear. Sometimes, late at night, I found myself reaching for my phone, almost wanting to text her. Part of me longed to hear her voice, to get an explanation, to hear her apologize. I knew, rationally, that doing so would only trap me again in the cycle of betrayal, but the pull was almost magnetic. I felt guilt, too. Guilt for wanting her, for missing her, even though she had broken my trust completely. The human heart is a strange thing. It can hold love and pain in the same space without logic or mercy. Then, I would remember her calm dismissal when I confronted her. The way she acted as if nothing had happened. That image alone snapped me back to reality. Every time I almost weakened, I reminded myself, I had walked away for a reason. She didn't value me the way I deserved. And no fleeting longing was worth undoing the small victories I had started to rebuild. A few weeks after I left, I ran into her unexpectedly at the grocery store. I froze before I even realized it. She was there, pushing a cart, humming softly, completely unaware, or maybe pretending to be, of the storm she had left in my life. She smiled when she saw me, the same warm, effortless smile I had once loved. My chest tightened, and for a moment I felt that old pull, the part of me that wanted to step forward, to pretend nothing had happened, to ask her why. But then I noticed the subtle signs I had missed before. The way she glanced at her phone, the faint tension in her shoulders, the way she carefully measured her words. It wasn't the woman I had believed in. It was someone who had learned how to live in two worlds, and I wasn't a part of either anymore. I nodded, forced a smile, and walked past her. She said something friendly, almost like we were normal acquaintances. My heart ached, but I didn't respond. The encounter left me shaken, but also strangely resolute. I realized that closure wouldn't come from her. It had to come from me. After that encounter, I spent days thinking about what love really meant and what trust truly required. I realized that loving someone doesn't guarantee reciprocity. It doesn't shield you from betrayal or protect you from someone's hidden choices. Love is not a contract, it's a risk, and sometimes heartbreak is the price. I also understood that trust is fragile, easily broken, and almost impossible to fully repair once shattered. I had given her everything. My time, my care, my loyalty, and she had taken it for granted. The lesson was painful, but clear. My heart was mine first. It deserved honesty, respect, and reciprocation, not deception hidden behind a smile. I started to examine my own patterns, too. Had I ignored warning signs? Had I been too blind because I wanted love so badly? Maybe. But that self-reflection didn't come with guilt. It came with awareness. awareness that would help me in the future to recognize authenticity and protect my heart from a similar fate. It was a slow, painful growth, but one I needed. I couldn't control her choices, only my own. And my choice had been to leave. That choice, as difficult as it had been, was the first step toward reclaiming myself. After weeks of drifting through the fog of heartbreak, I started to rebuild. Not in a dramatic, sudden way, but quietly, piece by piece. I returned to old hobbies I had abandoned. Reading, running, even cooking experiments I'd never dared to try before. Small victories, like finishing a book in one sitting or running an extra mile, reminded me that I could still feel pride and accomplishment on my own. I reached out to friends more intentionally, not out of loneliness but for connection. Coffee dates, long walks, even late-night calls became lifelines. They didn't fix the pain, but they made it bearable, reminded me that I wasn't alone in the world. I also learned to enjoy solitude, something I had feared before. I found a strange comfort in my own company, a quiet strength in knowing I could exist, and even thrive, without her presence. Slowly, the apartment that once felt like a museum of betrayal started to feel like my sanctuary again, a space where I could be myself without pretense. It was hard, still hurt, but with each passing day, I felt lighter, more grounded, and more certain that I could survive this, and that I could, one day, love again without fear of being deceived. Even as I rebuilt my life, doubts and old memories lingered. Sometimes I caught myself wondering if I had made the right choice, if maybe I had overreacted. Sometimes I imagined her with someone else, laughing, living the life I had once pictured with her, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. But alongside the pain, I began to notice something else. Strength. A quiet, stubborn strength that had been growing every time I got out of bed despite the heaviness in my chest. Every time I chose to face the world instead of retreating into anger or despair. I realized that surviving betrayal wasn't just about leaving someone. It was about reclaiming myself, bit by bit, from the wreckage they left behind. I also understood that the pain wasn't a weakness. It was proof that I had loved deeply, that I had given without reservation. And maybe someday that capacity for love would be a gift again, when paired with someone who deserved it. The doubts still came, uninvited, like shadows in a room, but they no longer controlled me. I could hold them, acknowledge them, and still choose life, still choose myself, still choose to move forward. Eventually, the raw edge of the pain dulled. Not because I forgot what happened, but because I accepted it. I accepted that she had chosen a path that didn't include honesty, that I had no control over her actions, and that my worth wasn't defined by her betrayal. I stopped replaying every moment in my head, stopped trying to piece together a puzzle that would never make sense. I let go of the what-ifs and why-me questions that had haunted me for months. Acceptance wasn't about forgiveness, it wasn't about excusing her behavior. It was about freeing myself from the hold the betrayal had over my mind and my heart. For the first time, I felt a sense of calm, a quiet, steady knowledge that I had survived something devastating, that I had honored myself by walking away, and that I could face the future without dragging the past behind me. I still carried scars, emotional ones that would never completely fade, but they were mine, not hers, and I could wear them as proof of endurance rather than defeat. Looking back now, I can see the journey more clearly. Betrayal is a brutal teacher. It strips away illusions, forces you to confront uncomfortable truths, and tests the limits of your heart. But it also teaches resilience, self-respect, and the importance of boundaries. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: love is a risk, but trust is sacred. If someone violates that trust, no amount of excuses or apologies can undo the damage done. Walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. It means you value yourself enough to refuse half measures, deception, or betrayal. To anyone going through something similar, I'd say, don't ignore the signs, don't silence your instincts, and don't convince yourself that love alone is enough to fix what's broken. Honor your feelings, allow yourself to grieve, and take the time you need to rebuild. There's life and joy waiting on the other side of heartbreak, even if it feels impossible at first. I still feel the ache sometimes, a ghost of what I thought we had. But I've learned that surviving it, truly surviving it, gives you a strength you can't get any other way. And that strength is yours forever.